The next one I'm going to call functional decoupling. So in traditional vintage analog multiphonic synthesizers, each voice was sort of held in rigid lockstep with each other voice. There weren't differences between the voices. The waveform, the envelope, everything was applied specifically in the same way to each voice. And it results in kind of a very limited sound, really. Now, the fine people at Arturia decided that didn't need to be true. So, for example, in the LFO sections, in two of them, there is a thing called poly, which allows each of your LFOs for each voice to act independently. And this makes a tremendous difference, as I'll show you. So on the PolyBrute, your LFO is per voice. And here's the best way to demonstrate this really quickly. Whereas in an old-fashioned synth, you just have one LFO affecting all of the voices. Similarly, watch what happens here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the patch panel here. And we're going to assign, we have pitch global already assigned. So let's put LFO. Okay, here is LFO acting like it would on your traditional polysynth. As you play each note, it obeys. The pitch variation you're hearing is the same for every note. You can hear that waveform no matter what you do, no matter what sequence of notes you play. However, the PolyBrute has LFO per voice. So when you go into poly mode, which I just have, listen to what happens. Can you hear that those two waveforms are independently operating? As opposed to what they were doing here. I just did the same thing. So what that means is that each voice is getting its own independent modulation, which behaves differently in contrast to other voices, which makes it a sound much more acoustic, much more interesting, and much more varied. And so this is true for both of these LFOs. So you could actually have an LFO per oscillator, per voice on that oscillator with 12 different LFOs. I can't remember whether LFO 3 does this as well. It doesn't have the ability to switch to poly. So LFO 3 probably acts like a single overarching LFO. But yeah, having 6 different independent LFOs affecting something like pulse width on a sound, you're not going to find that in a traditional analog polysynth anywhere. That's amazing and huge.